Hey everyone, in this video I want to show you Warp. They are also today's sponsor, and I'm actually really excited to show Warp to you because they now also have Warp code. So now we can do a lot of coding tasks in Warp as well. Maybe you've already seen Warp from their terminal, or maybe you've just seen it around and you were just curious about it. Well, in this video I'll show you exactly how to use it, some of the benefits that you get and its differentiators. And overall, yeah, I have to say I've been working with it. I think they've really nailed this form factor of interacting with agents, which is what our work as a developer is going to be for the next foreseeable future. Basically, you'll be prompting an AI agent. The agent will do some work and then you review the work that the agent has done. This is essentially going to be most of our work as developers, I think. And I think Warp has created an environment for this that really makes it an ergonomic experience. So I'm on the landing page here, and we could go through the landing page, but I actually just want to show you how it works. It's actually a desktop application, so you can download it from here. And when you open it up, you will get your application right here. I will zoom in a little bit. Basically, it just says here, create a new project, open a repository and clone a repository. So this is just the starting view. And then here below, we have basically an area where we can write our prompts. And we see a bunch of controls here. Don't worry about it. I'll explain what those mean. Now, what can I do with Warp here? Well, you can do the typical things that you're used to from a terminal. You can do ls, you can change into a different directory. Right, so now I'm in the root directory, but I can write commands here. That's the one mode that you have here. But there is also an agent mode here. All right, so let's say I have a repository and I want to clone it onto my computer, and maybe we want to do some coding or some refactoring. And actually I have a cutting edge Next.js application here, which is Petsoft. It's actually part of my course. Maybe I want to do some refactoring. There have been some small changes in Next.js, so I want to update it perhaps. So let's actually see how we can do this with Warp. So I have a code folder on my computer. So what I could do is I can change the directory into code, into that code folder. Actually, I get a great suggestion here from Warp. I can just accept here, and you can see this would just be a terminal command that I would run, right? So I can do the terminal features that you're used to. But I can also just say it in natural language. So I can say something like go to my code folder, for example. And you can see as I'm typing, it picks up that this is meant as a prompt for an LLM. So it actually switches to agent mode here. If I do that, you will see a block here. So you will see your own prompt, and then you'll see the agent's response. And now it stops because I need to approve this command that it wants to run. So it wants to run the same command as before. I can run this and it's going to run that command. Now you can see my location is in that code folder. It also immediately comes up with some suggestions here. In this case, we do not want to do it, but sometimes they're actually really good. So now it's finished and we get control back here in our prompt box here. Now what we want to do is I want to clone this. So this is just a repository with all the projects of the course. And let's say I want to clone this onto my computer. I can copy this URL here. And now I can go here to Warp. I can say something like git clone. I can just write it as a terminal command. You can see it picks up. It's just terminal here, right? Now I can also say something like, could you please clone this? And just write in natural language here. You can see it automatically switches into agent mode. Let's actually see what happens. Okay, so it's gonna clone the repo. It's gonna generate a command. All right, so it came up with a command. Of course, it's just git clone. We can say run. Now, in this case, something went wrong because I believe there's already a folder with that name. Yeah, so actually it looks like the repository already exists. Okay, that can happen sometimes. And then it actually gives me some options. So maybe I want to use that existing folder, or maybe I want to remove that and just start off fresh. Let's actually do that. Let's go with option 2. Right, so I'm just chatting here with an agent actually, instead of writing a bunch of commands myself. Okay, so now it's going to go ahead with option 2. And now, of course, you have to be a bit careful with removing things. So I like that by default, it's actually quite safe. You do have to approve a lot. So I want to approve this command. Now, about the approval, I'll show you the settings in a bit as well. But one of the things we can do is actually auto approve here. So like YOLO mode basically. And now it wants to git clone here again. Okay. Right. So here we have an option for auto approve all agent actions for this task. Of course, you want to be a little bit careful with this, but we can get more fine grained with this as well. I'll show you all the options in a second. All right. So now we have cloned it fresh and it immediately asks me to navigate into it. Yes, please navigate into it. Okay, so it's going to navigate into that directory. And now we are in that directory, right? So now I have my code in here and it will automatically show me what's inside there as well. So it's running an ls command here. And we can see that these are all the projects in that repository. Now, if I want to see that, I can actually open up this file tree here as well. So you can see Warp now has some more IDE features. So it's actually really nice because I don't have to context switch to an IDE anymore. If I want to see the actual code or the folder structure here, I can stay inside of Warp, right? So here I can see the folders of that repo. In this case, I'm interested in the Petsoft project, so I can just navigate the folders and files in here with this icon here, the Project Explorer. What I can also do is simply Command O, which will also show me the relevant files here, including nested folders. So I don't have to do a bunch of CD into new folders and then ls to see the files. I can just do Command O and get and see all of the files here. So maybe I'm actually interested in Petsoft. If I just write Petsoft, it will show me the files that are part of that project. Okay, so that's exploring files. Now, what if we actually want to do some coding? So in this case, maybe I do want to change something in the Petsoft project. It was a pretty cutting edge project. It still is, but maybe I want to add some small updates. So maybe I could say something like, could you update the Petsoft project so that when a pet is selected, the URL updates to show its ID, like selected ID is pet ID here, right? So let's actually go ahead and do this, right? So Petsoft is actually a SaaS that we built. It's a project, it's a SaaS project, and users can add pets, basically. In the course, we actually use useState for that, but maybe we want to refactor and actually keep track of that in the URL. So this is a bit of an intermediate task here for the agent. It has to work with the latest Next.js app router. I find that sometimes these coding agents, they can get a little bit confused with the latest Next.js app router because there is a lot of content out there about the Next.js pages router and some of the older Next.js versions. So they've been trained probably on a bunch of that. Now here, actually, we see something interesting. We see that it comes up with tasks. So if you give it a very simple task, it will just do it. If you give it a little bit more of an intermediate or advanced task, it will first come up with a plan and it will come up with a task that it will do in sequence. So basically, initially, it's just going to check out the current implementation. Then it's going to update the path context to be in sync with the URL search params. Okay. So this makes sense to me. So it's already finished the first step. Now for the second step here, you can see that before it continues, it again wants my confirmation here. So it wants to actually change the code, right? So now we're actually coding here. We're actually changing the code with the agent. And I like actually that it wants me to approve it before it continues. So if I don't like it, I can still cancel here. I can also refine here. So if I want to change the prompt, for example, I can also edit here, by the way. So if I click on edit, I can actually also edit here. But if I'm satisfied with the suggestion here, I can also just apply change. Okay, so it will continue. Right, so it's just gonna tick off all of these boxes here. It's gonna go through these tasks one by one. And as it's making code changes or it wants to run commands, terminal commands, it's going to keep asking me for approval. And actually I like it, so I apply changes here. But I like the form factor here because in other tools, you typically have your code panel on the side, and then you have like a chat bar on the other side. Basically the code, your actual feed or chat interface, they're kind of separated. Here, they've made the code fit into this flow, into this chat or feed, you could say, into this chat dynamic here, which makes it very easy for me to focus and understand what's going on. With some of these other tools, if it's happening on the side, you very easily lose track of what's happening because your actual chat is where the agent will write what it's doing, and then the actual code changes happen in some other place. So it's very easy to lose track. However, here it's integrated directly here with the agent output here as well. So this makes it much easier to keep track of what's actually happening with the code. And you can see the code quality itself also is really good. So it's able to do some pretty advanced updates here as well. So here, for example, if the path that was selected is deleted, it also wants to update the URL. That's a very easy thing to overlook if you would code it yourself. And of course, there is an LLM being used here under the hood, right? So here I can pick the models actually. So right now it is actually using Claude 4 Sonnet, but it actually comes with a nice set of models here, some really good ones. From the code quality that I've personally seen, it looks really good, even in a pretty cutting edge Next.js project like this one. Okay, so now it wants to actually see if the application still runs. So it wants to invoke a terminal command. I approve. So here we see an actual terminal command, and you can see that there's some output. It's installing the dependencies. Yeah, it's just going along. Ultimately wants to run this the dev script, and it's actually running the app now, and you can see there are no errors. So if I go to the application, you can see it's running here, and the actual app is inside here. I don't want to go through all the authentication details here and actually create an account. But the app is actually running, and what I can do now, for example, is I can leave it running here, right? Just the dev server here. So I'll actually leave it running. Now, what other things do we see here? We can see the changes it made right here as well. So here's the branch that we're on, the final branch. But if you click on this, it will actually open up another panel here, and this panel will show you the open changes, meaning the changes that have not been committed yet. So I can see these file by file. I can also click here and see the files that were changed. So in this case, this one file here, I can see the div here. So this is another thing that previously I would have to go to an IDE for, right, to view the divs. But now I can stay inside Warp. I can close out of here and get this view. Now I want to leave the dev script running here. Maybe I just want to leave this running. I can open up another tab here by clicking here or Command T, and it will still show me the changes that are made. But I can do other things here, like can you add suspense in the relevant parts of the Petsoft project. Right, so more advanced query here. Let's see what it can do with that. Now, as it's doing that, we can actually open up another tab. So this is more of an advanced query here, so it may take some time. Maybe I want to open up another tab here, and I can say something like, could you remove use state for the selected pet and just keep track of it in the URL in Petsoft. Right, so now I have two agents running at the same time in parallel. If you want to see their status here, you can click on this icon in the top right. It will show you the status of that work, right? So actually I can even stop it here. But if you're looking for a more advanced workflow where you can do things in parallel, definitely check out Warp. So you can see actually when the icon turns to orange, it needs my approval before it can continue. So actually the dev server also is orange because it's basically never ending process. But here we need to approve this code, but here we can apply the change for the code. You can see it has created another task here. So for these more advanced tasks, it will first plan, which makes total sense. Let me actually stop this one. So I will just cancel here, and I will just, so this one's canceled. So I will just click out of the tab here. So now I will leave over the tab with the dev server, and now I have this one here where it is properly removing some code. All right, so at some point it will be finished here. It's trying to run a build to check if everything still works. The types seem good, and actually it was able to complete the task here without running into issues. So it gives me a summary here of what it did, and it picked up on the fact that I'm trying to establish a single source of truth, right? So a very, very tricky issue in React. If you have the state both in use state as well as in the URL, it can get out of sync. So typically you want to stick to either use state or the URL. So it actually picked up on the fact that I wanted to do it in the URL. This is actually something that even a junior developer would easily oversee. So the fact that with Warp here that we picked up on that is actually a really good indicator of its quality here. But let's say that I do want to make sure that the code in the file is doing something in particular. So maybe I actually do want to open the file. Now maybe you think, oh, I have to go to an IDE to open and edit the code. Well, no, we can stay inside Warp here. Open up the div if I want. I can open up the file tree here if I want, or I can do Command O if I want, or I can just go here. Yeah, so I can see it's the pet context provider. So maybe I just want to stay here. Or let's actually open it up like this. So I can just go here and press enter. Now it's just a normal file that I'm inspecting here, and it has syntax highlighting. It has enough things here to actually easily edit code as well. So in case you were worried about switching between IDE and then Warp again, you can stay inside of Warp. Okay, so maybe I do want to make some change here. So maybe I do want to remove this, let's say. I can manually change it. So I can actually just change the code and I can save the file. Now there is another option here, which is to add it as context. So I can select something here and I can build some context here for my next prompt. So I can just add as context here. And now I can say something like, please remove any scroll setting and just rely on defaults. Right, so if I do this, it comes up with a suggestion here. I will accept it. I will apply the change. And now you can see it actually has changed. So if you do prefer to see your actual file here on the side and then the chat here on this side, you can still do that here in Warp as well, right? So Warp has basically picked some of the really nice features that IDEs offer, and it has brought it into its own environment here. So it becomes more what they call ADE, so an agent development or agent driven environment. And I think it's the right form factor because it's just very ergonomic to stay inside this flow of sort of chatting with an agent. The agent does the work, we review the code. Now maybe I'm finished with this task here. I just want to get a clean slate here for something else. I can just open a new tab, actually just close that. And maybe I'm actually new to this project. So I can also ask questions about my code base, right? So I can also say something like, how are payments implemented in this project? Right, so if I'm just trying to learn about this repo without necessarily I don't necessarily have to make code changes right now. I just want to see how it's structured. I can also just ask questions. All right, and it does a pretty thorough search here. So it's also it knows that it also probably wants to check out the database schema. All right, now while it's working, I can still switch between tabs here, right? So I can also just do command 1 and it will go to the first tab here. If I do command 2, it will go to the second one. And if you had another one, you could do command 3. All right, and here now I get a nice overview of how the payments are implemented. Let me actually double check to see if it's correct. So here, payment flow, the key components also shows the code here with syntax highlighting in the chat by itself. We don't need to approve, it's just presentational. So all of this looks actually really good. And yeah, the quality of the coding agent here is actually really good, I have to say. Now you could see that it was looking up quite a few things in my code base here, right? So it was trying to find all sorts of things. So if you really want to boost the performance, you can also index your code base, which is what you can expect. So what we can do here is we can do / our / commands here. So we can do a couple of things. We can add a new MCP server. We can also add a new agent prompt. So there's like a prompt library. I'll show you that in a second, or a new rule. We can open a div view pane, but we can also index the code base. This is one option you have here. Or if you want to go ahead and also create like an instruction, like a file with some instructions for Warp, we can also immediately create a warp.md file. So typically when you open up a new repo here in Warp, you probably want to go with the init option here. So you both index as well as generate that warp.md command. So let me actually go ahead and do this. We will say, yes, index this code base, and we will also generate that warp.md file as well. So while it's doing that, let's see what else we have here. We have at the bottom, we have open the project rules. Okay, so basically when it has finished creating that file, we can inspect it. So if you're using some MCP servers, you can view that as well. Now they also have prompts here. So there are some prompts out of the box, so you don't have to type it all yourself. So if you want to do something and you're not exactly sure how to trigger the agents properly, for example, maybe I do want to create a custom Warp theme. I am actually using a different theme than the default one. I'll show you some of the different themes they have out of the box here, but you can also generate a custom Warp theme. So if I click on that, you can see it already gives me this complete prompt, so you don't have to come up with that yourself. Right, now we can also add prompts ourselves, so you can build up a nice prompt library yourself. Now sometimes Warp will actually just ask you by itself, so you don't have to run that command. If you open a project and sometimes on a new tab, for example, it will actually just ask you if to optimize it, right? So you may actually want to just do it by clicking on optimize here. Now I opened a new tab. What are some of the other options here? Well, we have /commands. That's what we just saw here. I hope you can see it, but here it says auto approve all agent actions. I'll show you the settings in a bit. We can get more fine-grained. They also have voice input. So let me actually show you how is authentication implemented in this app, right? So you get your prompt here and I could submit it. Let me just continue here. So we have attach context. So if you do want to add specific files or other things, you can do that as well. Build your context. We can attach images. I can also just paste an image here, by the way, part of my prompt. I can pick the model right here, right? All right, so let's actually take a look at the settings. So here we can auto approve all agent actions for this task. Maybe we can get a little bit more fine-grained. So I can do command comma here to open up the settings, or you can go to Warp here and then settings. Here we have an option for AI. So here we have a bunch of options, and so you can tweak Warp exactly to what you want. So here under agents, for example, there are some default settings here. So let's take a look. So the base model, we can set that, and the planning model, right? So if you remember, if it's a more advanced prompt, it will first come up with a list of tasks to do before it goes ahead and executes them. And actually the strategy that you may want to use is use like a premium model, or like really like a more expensive model to really get that plan right? And then you can have a cheaper model that actually executes the task. Applying code diffs, you can say, for example, always allow code diffs. If you want that reading files, you can also decide. There's an option here for executing commands. We have allow list here and a deny list for commands. So you can tweak that exactly to what you want. Here in the code, we have the index settings, right? So maybe you do want to automatically index new folders, for example. All right, so here under appearance, we have themes. So you can see this is my current theme. If I click on that, you can see the themes that you get out of the box. So I believe by default I had a very dark theme because I'm in dark mode in my computer. But there are some other ones here as well. And actually the one that you see sometimes that I really like is the sunny solar flare. Right, so solar flare, I think this looks really cool. But you can change all sorts of things here about its appearance here. And there are a bunch of other options, but I think you get the point, which is that, well, Warp is a wonderful experience for a developer in my view to interact with an AI agent and to get my work done as a developer in a much more convenient, more ergonomic way than before. All right, and if you like Warp and you want to sign up for their Pro plan, you can use my coupon code BYTE, all uppercase, for the Pro plan, right? So the folks at Warp were nice enough to give us a discount code. So if you go to Pro here you can add a promotional code, all uppercase BYTE, and if you apply it, you will get an even better price, massive 70% discount. So that is all uppercase BYTE. So I think they really have something here. They actually call it the agentic development environment, which makes sense to me. We're sort of moving from an IDE world to an ADE world. I think that makes total sense. They've had some really good scores on the benchmarks as well for coding. So definitely check out Warp, check out the links in the description. And then I hope that you enjoy using Warp as much as I do. So let me know what you think in the comment section. Thanks for watching and I hope to see you in the next one.